Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. I am here today with Rhett Power. He has done some really rather remarkable things, very involved with business leaders in many places, actually, living between Brazil and the U.S. at the moment. He is part of the Marshall Goldsmith 100 group. He's a business advisor. He won last year, 2018, the Best Small Business Coach of the Year award. He has done a tremendous amount of work with entrepreneurs and business leaders. So with that, you write for Forbes Magazine, you write for Inc., you write for CNBC. You certainly have made your face and voice heard, and now you're on LinkedIn Live Lunchtimes with Rhett.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if you'd like to just share a little bit about how you got to where you've gotten so people can get to know who you really are.
Well, thank you, first off, for having me on the show. This is a real delight. And just to have a conversation with you is just amazing. And I do appreciate that opportunity. The story, I didn't have a grand life plan. I've always been sort of a person that went with the moment and went with my gut and what my gut told me. And I think for me, the most sort of critical time is I was a Peace Corps volunteer back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And really fell in love with it. I had done a bunch of jobs. I was kind of late going into Peace Corps. I was 30, and sort of going through I wouldn't say a midlife crisis, but I think I was going through a crisis of doing. I wanted to do something that was meaningful. I'd been working in a bunch of different careers and really hadn't found for me what my life's calling, I guess. So Peace Corps seemed like a good option at the time. I was intrigued by the idea of it. Kennedy's words still spoke to me when he talked about serving your country and doing something greater than yourself. And so the Peace Corps changed my life in a lot of ways, because after Peace Corps, I continued doing international development for USAID. Okay. And was really, for all intents and purposes, I had a great life. I had a great job. I got to travel, got to fill my passport pages and see new places and do work that helped people. Yes. All things I thought were very important to me. But I still had that nagging feeling in my gut that said, okay, you're not quite there yet. This is good. But there's something else missing. And I had a friend that I worked with, and we talked for years about starting our own company. And finally one day we said, okay, we got to do this. I can always come back to this work overseas if I want to, but we've got to take this chance. And so we started a company. It was a children's toy company. We bought a company in South Carolina, a one product company that we fell in love with. And that the day I got the keys to that business, I said, okay, this is it. This is what I was supposed to be doing right now. And that's sort of where this whole journey of coaching, and we exited that company in 2014. We sold the company. I started again thinking about what was next. And I started meeting people like Marshall Goldsmith and Mark Thompson and people like that. And this whole coaching idea kept coming up and coming back. And I remembered my days as a Peace Corps volunteer, as a teacher, and how much I really, really loved that, and how much I loved seeing that light bulb moment go off in people's heads, when something clicks. And so here I am as a coach now, and an business advisor, and again, I'm in where I'm where I need to be and where I'm supposed to be. And I think when you find that in life, you hold on to it, and you embrace it, and you go full, you go all in, and that's kind of where I am now, and I wouldn't change that.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I just had a very interesting conversation with a executive. The question was, how do you know when you have found that purpose? And part of the struggle, I think, for people is many people have a big notion purpose is big. So when you arrived at that, how did you know you had arrived at it?
It's just this feeling of, I hate to use the word completeness or feeling, but I don't feel, when I get up in the morning, I don't feel like there's something missing. I don't feel like there's, that I'm lost, or I don't feel like I'm off course. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I think that's part of that is paying attention to yourself and paying attention to being more self-aware and being tuned in to how you feel and what's going on mentally, emotionally. I think that all plays into it. I think, so I don't know if that's a great answer, but I think that some of that is just listening to yourself and listening to what you're thinking and what's going on with you. And I think that's how you know. I mean, I just know. There's not a magic thing to it. I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not wanting something else.
Okay. So do you take time to reflect? Is that part of how you arrive at that? Is introspection a big part of what you do?
I look ahead more than I look back.
Okay.
I don't, we all make mistakes. We all have said, oops, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have gone there, or whatever. And I think it's okay to understand that and to fix those if you make mistakes, or to think about how you made that mistake. But dwelling on it and rehashing it and living in that, I live in the future, and I think about the future more than I think about the past. If I made a mistake in the past and say, okay, is there something I can do to fix that? Then I try to do that, but I don't dwell on it so much and reflect on it so much as I say, okay, what's next? What am I thinking about, tomorrow and the next day, next year? Where am I going? Making sure that I'm going where I want to go.
So one of the interesting things that you provide, Rhett, is this marvelous combination of having done your own business and also now coaching. And I think so many times people in the consulting world and coaching world haven't lived and gotten their hands and feet really dirty. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about you have seen some of the biggest challenges being for leaders, and how that experience of yours has shaped that thinking that you have.
Sure. I think, I see a lot of, as you do, in your practice, we see a lot, and there's not one or two things that are the most common. I think that I probably have a list of top 10 things of things I see most regularly. I think and because I work in small businesses, and I'm not only a coach, but I'm an advisor. So I do I do some different things than a lot of coaches. I do process stuff. I do, HR and team building and culture and even manufacture. I mean, I'm a product guy at heart. And so, I know product pretty well and how to make it and know how to, sell it. And so I work a lot on those kind of things as well. But I see a bunch of things. Communication as a leader, getting people to understand the vision, understanding their role in the company, understanding how important they are, and communicating that to your teams, I think is one of the things I see a lot of inspiring people work towards that mission is something I see a lot of people have trouble with. Balancing life, integrating, not work-life balance so much as integrating work and life and other important things into how you manage how you exist, I guess. And then, building a team, building a culture, the fundamentals. I see people who really struggle with the simple things in managing a business, see a lot of burnout, and also see a lot of people sort of crippled by decision-making and fear and worrying about their impact of their decisions. And so those are sort of the common things that I end up working on a lot with the businesses that I take on. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's sort of what I see most commonly.
Great. And you talk about with entrepreneurs how entrepreneurs know how to start a business, but not know how to grow a business. What is it that you've seen there that has drawn you to that?
Well, I didn't know how to grow my business either. I mean, it took us years to have that.
How many years did you do your business?
So we were in the business for 7 years before we exited. We went from basically broke to a multi-million-dollar business, and working in 30 countries, and with making product to 35 countries. And so we didn't know how to scale it. We didn't know how to grow it. We didn't know quite what the model was, and we fumbled around for a bit to sort of figure that out. And I think, for most entrepreneurs, it's a learning. This whole leadership thing, this whole entrepreneurship thing is a learning process. If you do it with an open mind, right, and you do it with the intent of growing and being successful at it, I think it's a learning process and it's a maturity process. I know things that bothered me when I was early in the business don't bother me now in running another business, right? The things I worried about and kept me up at night early on, a year, 2 years, 3 years in, didn't bother me anymore because I knew that there was a solution. I knew that I could deal with that and work it out. So I think, I guess the point of that is that it's a growing and learning process. And if you have an open mind, you learn and you mature and you get better at it and you figure out how to scale and you figure out how to grow. And I don't think anybody really, we had a 600-page business plan that made a great doorstop. Wow. We thought we knew it all, right? We thought we had gone in with a really solid plan. And we were two management consultants who'd been working with businesses all over the world, right? So we knew what we were doing, but we didn't know what we were doing. And we learned that pretty quick. So that business plan went out the window, and we had to redo it, and we had to rethink it, and we had to constantly rethink it. So I don't know.
So for you, as you look at small business owners, entrepreneurs, biggest piece of advice you have for them?
Focus and persevere. I think, I could go on and on. Make processes. Have a system that you can teach people. Make it simple. Focus on your core product, your core competency, the thing that makes you really good, the things that you're really good at. If you're not good at something, try to learn something about it, but then hire someone to help you with it. Learn enough of it that you can tell people what you need and what you want, but that you can give to somebody, delegate or hire somebody to come in and do that. And I think that's it. And then persevere and know that they're going to be up and down moments, and never give up. And there were so many times that we were on the brink of like disaster, and you keep pushing through, and then you get that breakthrough. And I think So many people don't know how hard it's going to be, but it's hard. It's really hard.
I think I have been in the same shoes as you. I've also had a startup manufacturing company and took it globally. But nobody can prepare you for the amount of hard work and the amount of resistance that you also experience in the process.
Yep.
So you can hear it, but it's quite different to experience it, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, somebody asked me the other day, would I do it again? And I said, yeah, I would probably would, because I think that's who I am. That's my nature, I think. And I actually enjoyed that phase of it immensely. The phase I actually did not like very much at all was when we were in a really good position globally and, with product, and we were humming along very nicely with no problems. That's when I was bored.
And the challenge was gone. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And entrepreneurs sometimes have a way of creating problems just in order to have that adrenaline constantly going. But let me ask you a question. You had, with all the writing that you do and traveling that you do, the people that you meet, you surely have thought about your own legacy and what it is that you want to leave behind. Would you mind sharing what that might be and how you develop that?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I just recently, last week, in fact, spent the last 3 weeks in the U.S., back in the U.S. My cousin, somewhat considered my brother, I think, in a lot of ways. I was an only child. Just died of cancer, and I spent the last 2 weeks with him. Wow. He died. And what made me really think about my legacy and all of that was to see the impact that he had on so many people. He was a teacher. He was a elementary school teacher and a soccer coach.
Oh, wow.
In the city where he was from, and to see the outpouring of support for his family and his kids, to see the response on social media and the cards and the people coming by the house, and then I gave the eulogy at his funeral, and to see 700 people fill this place, and it was over full. It was, people were out the door, who wanted to come and just say their goodbyes and give their condolences, and to see the students. I mean, one of the principals stood up and read comments from students and the letters from students to his family, to see the impact that he had on young people's lives, and how he really took on the most challenging kids and made them, his projects. It made me think a lot about what I do, and I think the answer to that question is, for him, it was very simple. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was doing what he was called to do. And I think if you do that, and you do good work, and you work with good people, and you have good intent, and you try to be good, and you associate yourself with good people, I think your legacy will take care of itself. So, I don't know that I focus so much on a product or a company as a legacy, or I think, to me, it's about doing good work, making a good product, being a good father, being a good spouse, doing those kind of things really well, and having living with sort of that intent in my life, then my legacy will take care of itself. I don't think he thought about his legacy at all. He just loved teaching, and he loved coaching. And so, to me, if I do that, and I do something I love, and I do it like that, and do it with the passion and the intent that he did it with, then my legacy will will be what it'll be good. It'll be a good legacy, right? So I think that's how I look at it. I think when I was 20, I probably would have answered that question differently, or 30, when I would have probably said, well, this company is my legacy. I'm leaving, but I think as I get older I think that has shifted for me to be, to live more with intent and just to be good.
It's always sad to me when I see people at a funeral, I guess, and a family is fractionated. The person was successful financially, but there's no family. And there's a sadness about that, isn't there?
It's a real sadness about that.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I mean, I don't at all. Yeah.
Well, you won't, because you're focused in such a different place. And, being focused on people, I think, shifts everything, doesn't it, to really grow and build people. So I'm curious, what are you most grateful for? You have, I just really appreciate your reflectiveness and your honesty about that. And so I think when people are reflective, they're also grateful. So what are you grateful for most in your life?
I think if you'd asked me that 6 months ago, I'd have probably given you a different answer. I think today, having been through the last few weeks, it's probably not much different. But I think for family and friends and life itself, and I think I think in this time where public officials are calling people names, and we live in this time of, just everything seems so ugly. I'm thankful for being around people that are more of a light, and more of surrounding myself with people that are more positive and who are doing good. I mean, the MG100 is a prime example of people who are trying to do good in the world. And I think, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that, and to be able to be in a position where I can focus on being around people that give me energy and that I can learn from and be better. So I think those are the kind of things I'm grateful for. I'm fortunate and lucky, and I know that, and so absolutely grateful for that every day.
So, Rhett, our time goes too quickly, and it's almost up. And so one last question for you. As you look at emerging leaders, and you have seen what you've seen, advice that you have, a single thought or two that you think is really important for people to think about?
Surround yourself with people that challenge you, that have different ideas than you, maybe. Surround yourself with people that are positive and give you positive energy, and that support your dreams and where you want to go in your life. People that'll tell you the truth, but even in that truth will support you in what you want to do. The other thing is to build a network. I think the importance of our network is so, I can't say it enough. I think, do things and be active in your community, be active in business networks, because it's such a valuable way to learn. It's such a valuable way to be associated with people who can help you. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's probably the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, is don't be afraid to ask for help, because when you ask for help, people are more likely to help. And I that's sort of hard to do for a lot of people. It's hard to ask for help, but
yes.
It is amazing when you do.
It is, and it is. You always have to get past your own fear, don't you, when you ask for help?
It's not easy. It really isn't easy, because it's vulnerability to it.
We want to think of ourselves as being smart and self-sufficient, I think, is part of it. So, yeah. Rhett, thank you so much for making time and on your very busy travel schedule and to talk with our audience. And for those of you who are listening today, thank you so much for your time. If you would like to get some further information, Rhett has done a great deal of writing. Any resources that we can have available to you from him, we'll certainly be glad to pass on. Just simply connect with us or email us, and we'll be glad to do that for you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.